What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. This is the second video of this series that I started a month ago. Although the Muhammad Hassan video is technically part of the series, I don't really consider it a part of it because I was just documenting his run, and it was clear why he didn't become a main eventer. Now, the first video in this series was about Carlito. More videos will come in the future on MVP, Mr. Kennedy, Evan Bourne, Wade Barrett, Alex Riley, guys like them. I don't upload these a lot because you guys might get fed up easily, and I diversify my content. Now, in the next video I'm going to make is up to you guys again. I'm going to give you two choices. The Raw episode where The Rock returned in 2011, or the SmackDown Royal Rumble episode. If you choose the SmackDown Royal Rumble episode, then I'll be sure to cover No Way Out 2004. As for that episode where The Rock returned, it was pretty entertaining and I thought it would be a fun thing to cover. There's more stuff in that episode, so don't think it's just about The Rock. Anyways, in this video, I talk about the gold standard Shelton Benjamin. So right now, let's go all the way back to Shelton's younger days. Shelton Benjamin was born on July 9th, 1975 in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Benjamin wouldn't begin to wrestle until the 10th grade. As an amateur wrestler, Benjamin's record in high school was 122-10. He was also a two-time South Carolina State High School heavyweight champion. Later on, Benjamin attended the University of Minnesota where he was a two-time All-American. This was where Benjamin met Brock Lesnar. Shelton graduated from the University of Minnesota and he became an assistant coach for the college. Now, I don't know what Shelton's degree was because I couldn't find it, but I found out Shelton graduated with a bachelor's degree in sports management, and this was 2 weeks after he was released from WWE. I don't think I mentioned all of Shelton's accomplishments. He was just simply a gifted athlete. In 2000, Shelton considered trying out for the Olympics. He decided instead to become a professional wrestler. I'm not sure if he chose to become a wrestler because Lesnar did, but the two were roommates in college and they stuck together. Gerald Briscoe and Jim Ross ended up recruiting the two, and they were sent down to OVW to hone their skills. In OVW, the two formed a tag team known as the Minnesota Stretching Crew. They won the OVW Tag Team Championships on 3 occasions. Also, these two are a part of the legendary OVW class of 2002, a class that also included John Cena, Randy Orton, and Batista. Brock Lesnar was called up to the roster the night after WrestleMania 18, while Shelton had to wait down in OVW. He tagged along with Rodney Mack in OVW, and he would finally debut on the main roster on the December 26, 2002 episode of SmackDown. Shelton debuted alongside Charlie Haas as Paul Heyman's gift to Kurt Angle. The three would be known as Team Angle. Team Angle, despite lasting for a few months, was pretty good. Angle was the mentor to the two, and it felt like they were Angle's kids. Benjamin and Haas were known as the world's greatest tag team. The duo beat Los Guerreros on the February 6, 2003 episode of SmackDown to become the new tag team champions. Quite impressive feat for the world's greatest tag team. They held the titles for 3 months, beating the likes of Los Guerreros again, and Chris Benoit and Rhino. I remember when Angle was out, they brought out a picture of his to the ring and they were honoring him and all, but he fired them from Team Angle, which cemented his face turn. The world's greatest tag team from there had a good run. They captured the tag team gold a second time from the team of Eddie Guerrero and Tajiri, who were the exact team that beat them in a ladder match for the titles. I also remember this tag team match where Benjamin and Haas faced Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman. It was off the charts and I think I should watch it again. All in all, that was one of the best tag team matches of the Ruthless Aggression era. The world's greatest tag team from there mostly faced Los Guerreros, who ended up winning the titles back from them. The duo failed to regain the titles, and on March 22, 2004, Shelton Benjamin was drafted to the Raw brand. Charlie Haas went on to form a tag team with Rico, and he was accompanied to the ring by his future wife, Miss Jackie. Shelton, meanwhile, began his tenure on Raw with a matchup against Triple H. On that night, Shelton's career would be changed forever. Gone were the days of teaming up with Charlie Haas. Instead, Shelton Benjamin's career would move in a different direction. This is one of the most memorable moments in Raw history for me, yet it can't be mentioned due to Chris Benoit being at ringside. About the match, it was fun. You were rooting for Shelton, not Triple H, the same guy who held Raw hostage for a better part of 2 years. Near the end of the match, Triple H was distracted by Benoit, who was fighting Flair at ringside. Benjamin decided to hit a stinger splash on Triple H and he rolled him up to beat him. I see this as a clean victory because Triple H turned around and observed what was going on the outside. It wasn't like Benoit was on the apron or anything like that. It was simply a great moment. It helped Shelton immensely on Raw because he wasn't seen as just some guy. He was one of the guys. Shelton was simply a made man due to this victory. Over the next 2 weeks, Shelton Benjamin once again beat Triple H by countout and disqualification, so he was 3-0 against Triple H. Now, his push would come to a halt once he broke his hand on Heat. I do think he might have been the guy who beat Orton for the title, because the Legend Killer never beat him clean in a matchup at Bad Blood. Shelton finally returned in the fall of 2004, and he was one of the choices to face Chris Jericho in an Intercontinental Championship match at Taboo Tuesday. He won the vote at 37%, and he went on to have a good matchup against Y2J. It's still crazy to me that Y2J didn't know who he was facing, and the only thing he knew was the finish, and that was because the ref had just told him. Nonetheless, they managed to have a good match despite not planning beforehand. Near the end of the match, Shelton hit the T-bone suplex on Jericho to capture his first singles championship in WWE. Man, at this time, I thought he was a main star, and it was only a matter of time before he was champ. Like, if you look at Shelton Benjamin from late 2004, you'll think he's on the brink of superstardom or something like that. Now, Shelton's IC title reign was memorable to me. Not because of his title matches, but because of some of the moments that occurred when he was champion. That football parody commercial that involved Trish Stratus, the Money in the Bank ladder match that saw Shelton run up a ladder, and he clotheslined Y2J. It was such a crazy and show-stealing moment. I still think it's one of the most memorable moments from a ladder match. Another thing I remember from Shelton's title reign, which you might not, I'm not sure if you do, but I'll just mention it. I remember when Y2J sang Shelton's a little b. This wasn't a memorable moment, I just thought about it and it's stupid. Like, Shelton's a little bit. And the most memorable moment, the matchup against Shawn Michaels. The two had such a great performance, and to top it all off, HBK caught Shelton in midair with a sweet chin music. You remember how that sequence made its way onto the Raw intro? It's simply one of Shelton's most memorable moments despite being on the losing end. On the June 20th, 2005 episode of Raw, Shelton Benjamin defended his IC title against Carlito. He lost the title to him, and I believe this was the beginning of Shelton's downfall. I felt like they focused more on Carlito from here on. Shelton wasn't featured as much on Raw as he previously was. I mean, I remember he was on the show, but he was just there. He wasn't one of the focal points of the show. But it wasn't until late 2005 where Shelton had a storyline on Raw. On the November 7th, 2005 episode of Raw, Shelton Benjamin lost to Carlito in a Survivor Series qualifying match. This was the start of a Shelton losing streak. From there, he lost to the likes of Trevor Murdoch, Kurt Angle, and at one point, HBK tried to help Shelton in ending the streak, but they failed to win the match. This losing streak would finally reach its end on the January 2nd, 2006 episode of Raw, when Shelton lost to Chris Masters. On that night, Shelton Benjamin's mom showed up. She was disappointed in Shelton because he was losing matches. She even said that she'll stick around until Shelton gets it together. With his mama at his side, Shelton beat Viscera at New Year's Revolution. She whacked the world's largest love machine, yeah, he was called that, with her purse which contained a brick inside. It was over. The streak is over. Shelton was on a roll with his mother on his side, and he nearly won every single matchup. The only match he lost was against the Big Show. On the February 20th, 2006 episode of Raw, Shelton Benjamin beat Ric Flair to become the new Intercontinental Champion. Mama Benjamin stopped accompanying Shelton to the ring due to his storyline having heart surgery, and Shelton was alone. At this point, he was a heel. He slowly turned during the losing streak, and by the end of it, he was a full-fledged heel. At WrestleMania 22, Shelton Benjamin participated in the Money in the Bank ladder match. He once again stole the show. He ran onto a ladder and he flipped onto the competitors. I always think this guy is the man. Now, Shelton didn't win the match as RVD ended up becoming Mr. Money in the Bank. I thought Van Dam had the most momentum out of all the guys, but I wouldn't have been disappointed if it was Shelton or any of the other guys. From there, Shelton began wearing jewelry, sunglasses, and some shirts looking like The Rock. Well, obviously he wasn't acting like The Rock, but he's wearing the same clothes as The Rock. He lost the IC title in a winner-take-all match with RVD's briefcase on the line. He would, however, regain the title a few weeks later, only to lose it to Johnny Nitro in an underrated triple threat match that also involved Carlito. Following the title loss, Shelton did absolutely nothing. I don't even remember him doing anything except claiming to be an icon for black people worldwide. He even said little kids across the globe sing his theme song. Like, just imagine a little kid in Germany or somewhere singing, "Ain't no stopping me now." Later that night, Crime Time stole some of Shelton's belongings. That's all I remember from this time period for Shelton Benjamin. I don't remember a single thing other than this. But that would all change for Shelton as he reformed the world's greatest tag team in an attempt to stop Crime Time. This amounted to nothing except for that ladder match against the Hardys. I thought that match was really fun. Other than that, there was nothing memorable about this run. The world's greatest tag team ended up splitting in November of 2007. At this point, Benjamin dyed his hair blonde, and he wasn't on Raw. He moved to ECW. On the November 20th, 2007 episode of ECW, Elijah Burke introduced ECW's newest star. It ended up being Shelton Benjamin. Shelton's first match on the brand was against Tommy Dreamer, and he ended up hitting the pay dirt on him to emerge victorious. This was like a rebuilding phase for Shelton. I believe that's why he was sent down to ECW, and that's what it felt like, because I felt like ECW could help him in like regaining like his momentum and his like mojo and everything. I felt like ECW could do that. The partnership between Elijah Burke and Shelton Benjamin didn't last long. On the December 11, 2007 episode of ECW, Shelton Benjamin spoke about gold. He mentioned how he won gold in the past and how there's gold in ECW. He said that he'll dig and dig and dig until he pulls out the mother load. Shelton ended the promo saying that he's the gold standard and there's no one that's gonna stop him. So I think this was the first time he called himself the gold standard, and I decided I have to include it because this part of the video is about the gold standard. From there, Shelton went on an undefeated streak, beating the likes of Shannon Moore, Colin Delaney, and his winning streak ended when he lost by countout to Kane. The reason why he lost the match is because he decided to walk away from the Big Red Monster. After that, he had a show-stealing performance at WrestleMania, and he obviously didn't win the match. Following that, he had this small feud with Kofi Kingston before being drafted to SmackDown. Now, his time on SmackDown, it's memorable to me, but it's not really that memorable, to be honest. I remember it because he continuously called himself the gold standard and because he was US champion. Shelton started off his SmackDown run feuding with Matt Hardy, and this led to a US title match between the two at the Bash. Shelton Benjamin won the match to become the new champion. Now, Benjamin was mostly a focal point on SmackDown. He wasn't one of the top guys, but he was being featured weekly, unlike his previous run on Raw. The title reign itself wasn't really like, what can I say? It wasn't even that memorable. Like I said, I remember Shelton's run on SmackDown and I thought it was memorable, but his title reign itself, it just wasn't. I remember he faced the top guys on SmackDown and all that, but other than that, there wasn't much going on in the US title scene. Shelton's title reign would finally come to an end on the March 20th, 2009 episode of SmackDown, where MVP beat him for the title. This was the first time since July 20th, 2008 that Shelton Benjamin didn't hold the United States champion, so once again he had a long title reign. At WrestleMania, the gold standard once again had a great performance in the Money in the Bank ladder match, but he didn't win it. That's how it always was with him. He had great performances, but he never won it. He once again teamed up with Charlie Haas after WrestleMania, but that only lasted a month, and once again Shelton went back to ECW. Now, this ECW run was way better than his last run on the brand. Shelton's run on ECW started off with a match against the debuting Yoshi Tatsu. He got his head kicked off by Yoshi. Yoshi won that one easily. This reminds me of the story when Tatsu kicked Sheamus' ass in real life about who sleeps on the bed or something like that, or some protein. I don't even remember, but he kicked Sheamus' ass in real life. After that, Shelton Benjamin turned into a fan favorite and he feuded with Sheamus. Shelton and Sheamus beat one another and they exchanged victories and all, but it was Sheamus who ended the feud on top. Following this was Shelton's best feud in a while. I wouldn't even consider it a feud, but I thought it would lead to a comeback for the gold standard. It was against Christian. On the November 24th episode of ECW, Shelton Benjamin beat Zack Ryder in a number 1 contenders match. After the matchup, Christian came out and he congratulated Shelton on his victory. Captain Charisma mentioned that the ECW championship has been overlooked. He added that it's time he do something about it. Christian then challenged Shelton to a ladder match at TLC. He wanted to steal the show with Shelton, and that's what they did. I remember really loving this match when I watched it live. I thought they stole the show. The matchup had some memorable spots like Christian frog splashing Shelton through a ladder, Christian bleeding, Christian hanging onto the title. Man, ECW, if you remove the name, it was fun. Christian ended up retaining the title and Shelton moved on to a feud with Lance or Vance Archer. The two traded victories and it culminated in a no disqualification match on the February 9, 2010 episode of ECW. I don't even know why I remember this feud, but I just do. Shelton ended the feud on top and that was it for ECW because it was replaced with NXT. He went on to SmackDown where he once again qualified for the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania. He didn't win it again, and on April 22nd, Shelton was released from his WWE contract. I remember at the time thinking this was a shocking release. I thought Mickie James' release was shocking too because both of them were just on the WrestleMania card a few weeks earlier. All in all, an underwhelming end for Shelton in WWE. I thought it was championship material. Brock Lesnar didn't have the mic skills or anything like that, yet he became champion. What about Shelton? Like, all he needed was a manager like Paul Heyman or freaking Matt Striker, just anyone who could talk. I think that's what hurt him the most. Nonetheless, I still think he could have been champ despite his mic skills because Brock Lesnar was, obviously. Like I said, Brock Lesnar was champ. Why not Shelton? Why didn't he become a champion? He was like the most athletic guy in WWE. He was simply insane. Like I said, he should have gotten a manager, that's all. Now, other than that, I still find it weird how he was on the SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 roster despite being released 6 months earlier. Yeah, I know the cutoff is WrestleMania, but it was only a few weeks after it, so they could have just removed him from the game. That's it for this video. Make sure you hit a T-bone suplex on the like button and perhaps a pay dirt on the subscribe button. Peace, I'm out.